Hello, classmates. Welcome to my instructional design project video. My name is Kristen Chamberlain. I was given the opportunity to interview Mr. James Lindsay, who is an instructional designer, the instructional designer, at a place that he and I both worked at as a company. It's a biotech company based out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. The role brought me here to North Carolina and to NC State and to you, but I was able to keep a close relationship with Jim, and he was very, very happy to do this interview. So I'm happy to present my findings here with this brief video. So with the different topics that Jim and I talked about during his interview, we came up with, or I was able to come up with all of the different notes and things that I took. You can see all of this. And I'll preface this by saying that I gave Jim the foresight that we'd be spending maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour on the interview, and it ended up being closer to about 2 hours. So I really do thank Jim for his time. We talked about a number of different things, namely, as you can see here in the table of contents, education versus on-the-job experience. So one of my questions to Jim was, which is more valuable? Maybe it was an unfair question. Which is more valuable, education or on-the-job experience? So before Jim completed his master's in education and instructional design at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, he'd already had 15 to 20 years of instructional design experience in a number of different roles, namely training and technical writing and in ID. And had already completed as well a master's degree in English. So he had a lot of experience going into it. His ideas at the time were, been there, done that. I'm not going to learn anything. It's just going to be sort of a piece of paper. And it was really eye-opening for him in that his formal education gave him the vocabulary to speak with subject matter experts and with stakeholders to better articulate the needs for the project. So we talked about that for a little bit. In choosing an instructional design model, we talked a little bit about different models. So ADDIE is the one that Jim says that he uses sort of in the background or as a framework. In our last section here this semester in topic 8, we talked about those that like the ADDIE model and those that are for ADDIE and those that are anti-ADDIE. And in any, I'd imagine, instructional design education, you're learning some elements of ADDIE and then some of others. So bottom line is really find something that works for you, for the project at hand, and for the company or clients that you work for, and to make it work that way. Next, we talked a little bit about working with subject matter experts within instructional design parameters. So if any of you have worked with a difficult subject matter expert, Jim and I talked about that, and he even shared that he, at one point at a national conference, had given a talk about effective ways to deal with a difficult subject matter expert. As instructional designers, we're not in this alone, and oftentimes we can't choose the people that we work with, so it's best to keep an open mind, be clear with what you need in order to create a great learning product with everybody involved. So again, project managers, subject matter experts, and the like. That conversation really led itself to us talking about time constraints and effective design. So if you're under the gun, how effective can your learning product be that you're creating? One article that I found was really interesting, talked about, and actually let me scroll down to the table here, talked about the time that it takes to create 1 hour of training. So with this here, with stand-up classroom training can take anywhere from 20 to 185 hours of development time to create 1 hour of training. We also looked at, and this is just for stand-up instructor-led classroom training. So fast forward to e-learning developed without a template, so you're going into it blind. Can take anywhere from 122 to 400 hours, and that's with moderate interactivity and with limited animations. Oftentimes the bar has been set to create these really interesting, dynamic, interactive, engaging e-learning videos, and that type of content really takes quite a bit of time. Lastly, we talked about the ever-changing role of the instructional designer, and namely with technology. We can go into an instructional design project armed with all of the education in the world and with all of the theory in our back pocket, but without being able to create a learning experience, particularly with remote learning, with e-learning modules, we really can't be very effective, even armed with all that theory, if we don't know how to use the technology. So how do we, as instructional designers, stay on top of technology, both with e-learning authoring tools and then with learning management systems? For the e-learning authoring tools that Jim and I used, or really Jim, I was really only scratching the surface, tools that Jim used, he named, Adobe Presenter, Captivate, Camtasia, Storyline, and a series of others. So that's just to create the content, and then to then load that content into a learning management system is another animal. This semester we've been using Moodle, which is an open source learning management system, and then you've got SumTotal, Saba, and just a number of different others, Blackboard, Collaborate, things like that. So it was a phenomenal interview. It was really an interesting paper and project to put all together, to comb through the interview and to come up with the key points, and then to back that up with published references. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your semester. I've really enjoyed this class, and thanks for your time.